In order to produce the squirting orgasm, you need to have some familiarity with the female anatomy. So I'm going to go over the most important parts of the woman's body that you need to be familiar with in order to trigger a squirting orgasm. Now, this is not going to be a complete anatomy lesson. We're just going to focus on the 2 or 3 critical, most important parts of the woman that you must confidently be able to locate in order to make her squirt. And for this, I'm going to bring in my favorite teaching tool, the vulva puppet. All right, so this puppet is actually representative of the female anatomy. Couple important things for you to know. This part represents the clit and the clitoral hood. Here's the hood, and if we peel it back, this button right here is the clitoris itself. You'll be familiar with these. These are the inner labia and the outer labia. These often have pubic hair on them and are considered the outside of her labia. And then these inner lips can be big, small, they can hang out, they can be many different colors. On my vulva puppet, they're satiny pink. And these are the inner labia. These inner labia surround the opening to her vagina, to her vaginal canal. This entire outside of her body is referred to as the vulva, and the inside is what's referred to as the vagina. All right, now in between the clit and the vaginal opening, there is the urethra. On this puppet, the urethra is actually represented by a little flower. The urethra is the hole through which urine and squirt are released out of the body. So if you've ever wondered, does a woman urinate from here? Where does it come from? It actually comes from a microscopic hole that is in between the clitoris and the vaginal opening. Now, this is important for you to know for a couple reasons. Number one, if anything is blocking or getting in the way of this hole, she's not going to expel liquid. It's going to get hit by the finger or the penis or the toy or whatever that is blocking that hole. And even though there will still be a lot of liquid that is released, it's not going to shoot out or be ejaculated in the same way. Okay, so now we know where it gets released from. What are the vital parts for us to release it? Well, number one, obviously the clitoris is sort of the home of female pleasure. And so your ability to stimulate that using your hands or your mouth is going to be vital, but we will get into that into the next module. The most important thing for you to know about female anatomy for a squirting orgasm to happen is actually the G-spot. Now, the G-spot is located inside of the vagina against the front wall, about 1 to 2 inches on the inside. So if I insert my 2 fingers into this puppet and reach them up and in, I will find the G-spot. The G-spot is located essentially on the other side of the clitoris, and it actually is connected to the same nerves as the clitoris. Think about it as the back side of the clitoris. All right, the G-spot itself is actually a tube. Even though it feels a little bit like a bean, it runs up and down along the inside of her interior vaginal wall. The G-spot is very unique in that it only becomes accessible when she is aroused. So just like you only get hard after you're aroused, after there's some stimulation, the same is true of the G-spot. If you just insert your finger into her at any given moment or when sexual activity just starts, you won't be able to feel it. It gets filled with blood, just like any other part of erectile tissue. It fills with blood, it gets firm, and that is when you are actually able to trigger it. Now, the G-spot, also known as the urethral tube, actually goes around the urethra. And scientists believe that it actually evolved in order to protect the very delicate urethra from being injured during sexual intercourse. And that's why it only emerges when she's aroused, because it doesn't need to exist at any given time. It's just there to protect her from getting injured during intercourse. What's vital for you to know here is where the G-spot is located, because it's going to be the thing that we are actually stimulating in order to cause the squirting orgasm. And that's because the G-spot actually is the Skene's gland, the female prostate, the urethral tube that we discussed earlier. It is the home of the fluid that gets expelled during squirting. And that is why we are going to touch it, stimulate it, and trigger it in such a way where we cause it to release fluid out of the urethra, thus creating the squirting orgasm. So in summary, the most important part for you to know is this little thing right here, the urethra exit where the squirt is going to come from, and on the inside of her body, the G-spot, which is on the back side of the clitoris, only appears when she's aroused and is the thing that we are going to actually be triggering to cause the squirting orgasm. All right, now you have all of the female anatomy that you need in order to make her squirt. Next, we're going to discuss the foreplay techniques and style that are going to get her ready to let go, and we are going to then discuss exactly how to trigger the squirting orgasm. I'll see you in the next module.